I'm just gonna complain about freaks for a little bit. Basically, it's stuff that I've noticed pretty much all of my life, and it's pretty generic. Anybody who's honest would have these exact same observations, but not enough people voice them. But even in real life, people don't really talk as much as they used to. Our culture has changed irreparably. Our society has been doomed for probably the past 10 years, maybe more. I don't know if that's applicable to all of the United States. Probably not, but if there was a collapse of the system, it would be a very interesting show to watch it unfold. It would certainly be a bloodbath, and there would be cannibalism. Well, most people don't even know how to cook. Okay, I don't know how true that is, but a lot of young people don't even know how to cook. I'll get to that later. I kind of don't really care about being in order. Well, first, generic observations and generic griping about freaks, mainly about MTFs. That would be castrati or boys in dresses. And I think probably most of them actually have been subjected to things that are unjustifiable. And I despise these people, but the things that are done to them might explain why most of them are absolute psychos. And you know how sex education for children has always been very weirdly taboo, and America is extremely weird about discussing sex, but we're okay with violence. Well, when I say we, I don't mean me, I just mean Americans in general. And there's just something strange about the USA, but that might be a different topic, because I don't really have a whole lot of discussion points right now for that. But the USA is a bit of a strange place, and it probably is Babylon, the pride of the Chaldeans, and I'm pretty sure that the Chaldeans are Great Britain and Ireland. But this stuff gets complicated. Well, I remember from an early age, MTF were always unbelievably nasty. I only realized consciously, in my regular mindset, that they really are boys, about 3 years ago. But I used to think they were just strange girls. And most of them were unbelievably hostile. It was like that they knew, somehow, instinctively, who are the real girls and who are the boys pretending to be girls. It's like they're born with this knowledge, and I don't know how real people are sniffed out by the freaks, but we are. And they would just steal from me, and if I was nice to them and hoping that I could win them over with kindness and generosity, they would just take advantage of it and just keep stealing from me and insult me, and yeah. So, one thing I've learned is, if you give an inch, they take a mile, and no matter how kind you are, these are just greedy parasites. These are just evil sponges. They take, and they don't give except evil. They give you evil and grief, and they're horrible. And not enough people are talking about this. Everyone is just simping for them because, well, I used to wonder why supposedly women would be made into sex objects and objectified and viewed as something to jerk off to instead of a real person, but real women are treated so horribly. It's pretty sickening that society views MTF as a sex object, and from a very young age, I'm talking even probably before they're 5 years old, MTFs are literally treated as sex objects. And I know that some of them, by the time they were 15, they had sodomy bags under their eyes, and I've heard of people that became teachers, elementary school teachers, because they had these ideals that it'd be good to teach children and shape the generation and all that ideological crap that is just fluff, but it's not real. These people that were briefly teachers, and you know how I said briefly, they stopped being teachers, they quit their job because it was too much for them. One of them, 3 MTFs, little boys, threatened their teacher that if he didn't give them good grades for slacking off, they would claim that he had sex with them. And these are 8-year-olds that I'm talking about. And, you know, the people that work at schools are mandated reporters, but I have a feeling a lot of these mandated reporters don't always report, but I don't know what goes on with that. Usually, mandated reporters will report. And society pretends, maybe the reason why America is so weird about children and sexuality being discussed together, I think the reason why Americans are so taboo about that is because, when you point out someone's flaw to them and they flip out and they go into denial and they start yelling at you and, they just start attacking you for pointing out a flaw. I think that's why America is all like, oh, protect the children from sex. Like, I'm pretty sure these children are drugged, and look under their eyes. And a lot of them would piss and shit themselves in school. And you might have noticed there's more advertisements for adult diapers out in the open. I used to not see so many ads for adult diapers, but they're getting a little bit more common. And there's also this adult baby thing that's been gaining traction. I think it's a cover. I think that the adult baby thing is a coping mechanism to make them act like they choose to wear diapers when the reality is they don't have a choice but to wear diapers because of things that were done to them, and then they keep doing it. You know what they say about how certain perversions are transferred from adult to child? So, pretty freaky stuff that society's been sweeping under the rug and in denial of, but now that we are in a time of awakening, I don't know what ethereal, unseen force is holding a gun to the controllers' heads and forcing them to drip release information, but it seems forced. Anyway, so more in the high school to early 20s range, I would hear MTFs pretending to be nice, and a lot of them are staunch atheists or anti-theists, or they're into woo-woo made-up religion that they feel is tailor-made for their own personal biases, which I'm not going to get into that, but they just like to go shopping for ideologies, and some of them will claim to be atheists, but they're very fragile about it. If someone's just standing around being a Christian, the diaper-wearing sodomy eye bag atheist will start crying. I know people like that. The irony is one of them propped herself up. It was a castrato. She, her pronouns, but it was a boy. He was trying to make himself out to be some extremely smart, deep, sensitive, indigo child, whatever that is, and he was so fragile. I found out later he was actually mentally handicapped, but he was trying to keep it a secret, but it came out. He was also very short, and there is something about very, very short castrati and brain damage, but most of that stuff is for ancient castrati. They used to really stunt them 100 years ago. They used to do more surgeries that they don't do anymore, like the mouth shrinking one and pulling teeth and forcing the other teeth to migrate together into the front of the dental palate. And I don't know what else. I mean, some of them, they have these long, narrow monkey hands, and some of their ears look weird. They just look monkey-ish, and I'm not really sure what to make of that. But they have all these secrets. Who knows what it is? Anyway, so when the castrati are... One thing that was always odd was when they'd be about between 8 and 13 years old, they would seem smarter than average, but after that point they would quit learning. So if I would be 8 or 9 and there was a castrato, he would seem incredibly mean and very nasty, but a lot smarter than average. But as me and the other children grew older and went through more grades, that exact same castrato, he was stunted. Maybe he bloomed early in the brains department, but then he just quit learning and he started to regress, and their behavior gets worse and worse. They would frequently chimp out in class, and then multiple staff members would have to get involved to make him not freak out. They will freak out for no reason. I think they just enjoy it. I think they have violent tendencies and they just want to freak out. And they will get violent too. I can't believe I didn't wake up earlier. I mean, I knew that, when I was 3, I could identify teen boys in drag. I knew that the Statue of Liberty was a man. But, at some point, somebody destroyed my brain or something, and I couldn't think anymore. I don't know what happened. But, well, another thing that castrati learn early is what I call customer service shit talking, or it's a mixture of trash talking and customer service type behavior. You'll know what I mean. It's easier to point to an example, which I don't have on hand, than to describe it, but you'll know it when you see it. It's like they're just born that way, or I don't know what coaching lessons their parents give them. And I'm going to be zigzagging around in these topics because I don't have anything written down, so I'm just going to jump around a little bit. Some castrati that I used to know of, I checked up on them because these people are enormous narcissists. They have all of their docs on the internet that anyone could look at. They take 20 selfies a day, minimum. They think their lives are the most fascinating thing. They all want to be internet celebrities. They're all like this. And so I found out a lot of information very fast, and some of them now have castrati of their own that I'm absolutely certain they are pimping them out for money. And I should mention that these castrati that I'm mainly talking about here were very rich and very elitist, and they're in this closed club, CC, and I am certain, a lot of them are only children, and their parents are ultra rich with only their castrato child. And I'm pretty sure that the castrato, they're all groomed to be trophy wives. They're not groomed to have a real job. Like, their jobs are like art and performance and presentation. Things that do not really benefit society. So they're just trophy wives that sit around wearing makeup and being dumb. I don't know. But I am certain that they were being whored out for money. And a lot of them in elementary school, the ones that I knew personally, they seemed aware of sexuality before any of us even considered these things, because normal children wouldn't even think these thoughts at all, period. We wouldn't give it any mind. Well, anyway, so moving on to when they're teens or early 20s, their parents are trying to get them to be a little more presentable, because you can't really have your trophy wife chimping out and being a complete freak and throwing things and getting violent. Or at least you can't have them making a complete ass of themselves in public. Which, when they're not wearing a shock collar, pretty much they will chimp out. Guaranteed. So they would pretend to be polite, and yeah, you know that type. They're really fake. And yeah, they'll say stuff about going out of your way to brighten up someone's day, or, you know, an influential person that changed everyone to be a better person. But these people are all horrible, and they're hypocrites. They just go over the way to harass people. They literally don't have anything better to do than follow around ordinary women and just harass them. Like, no one's forcing them to do this, but they do it anyhow. And it's disgusting. I've already ranted too much about that. So now I'm just going to talk about how society is doomed, because I don't really care about structure. If you ever heard of this thing called Jamie Oliver's Food Revolution, I watched it back on YouTube when YouTube had their 10 to 15 minute upload limits, and people would bootleg shows and chop them up and put them on YouTube. And I watched Jamie Oliver's Food Revolution, where Jamie Oliver tried really hard to teach children in West Virginia what food was and how to eat right and cook. He ended up crying, and for a good reason, because why wouldn't you cry? It was heartbreaking. It was, society's gone too far. We're too degraded. The children didn't know what certain vegetables were. They thought chocolate milk came from brown cows. They thought eggs were a vegetable. They didn't know what vegetables were. He made pink slime, and the children wanted to eat it. He made these little game hens that looked so good, and the children thought they were nasty and threw them away. There was so much waste. It was like, how many thousands of dollars just wasted, and perfectly good food wasted on these snot-nosed brats that need a good spanking, and they need to be thrown into a dungeon and starved for a week, and then ask them again if they're going to eat the little game hens and the Brussels sprouts, because those kids, they needed a beating, I swear. Yeah. Well, it was just really sad. Like, he just... Oh, and the lunch ladies were just these nasty, fat monsters. Like, they're just so cynical, and they didn't give a shit. And yeah, no wonder he broke down crying. I would have done that. I mean, I was just watching a YouTube video bootleg, but, like, I knew. That's only a tiny fraction of what's going on. Like, that was bad enough in West Virginia, but there's so much more bad going on. Everyone complains about Zoomers and for good reason. Like, not all young people are completely lost. Some of them are contrarians and they are rebellious and when I say rebellious, I mean they're rebelling against if they have SJW parents, they might rebel against that. I don't know many SJWs, but actually that brings us to a new topic. Now, back in 2005, now LiveJournal was around for way before then. It was around in 1999, but I started using LiveJournal in the mid-2000s, and some of the people on there were proto-SJWs. They were trenders, and they were just SJWs ahead of their time. And LiveJournal had some clones like JournalFin and Dreamwidth and other clones. And there were even more SJWs on those platforms. And then Tumblr came along. And then people started leaving LiveJournal and its clones en masse, and they started going to Tumblr. And then a bunch of Russian spam bots and shills. I mean, LiveJournal always had these things, but then it got even worse. And now, I recall the bot takeover of LiveJournal happened around the time Facebook was launched. And Facebook is actually, it's run by the government, so I'm pretty sure that the government probably sent spam bots after LiveJournal and Blogspot and other platforms to drive people away. Because just go visit any Blogspot and read the comments, it's nothing but bot vomit. And so anyway, now there was Tumblr. That website was always garbage. It was very badly made. And then Tumblr had its own death, and more porn bots took over Tumblr. And again, I wonder if Facebook had something to do with this. I don't know. Sorry if my voice is really bad today. But, so, that's my awareness of the early SJWs, and I just thought there was some weird fringe cult at the time. I thought they were just, useless angry shut-ins typing death threats, and they were nothing to worry about. But now, no, SJWs are notorious for stealing things. They will pirate, they will shoplift, and they will post photos of the things that they have stolen. Like physical things that they grabbed off the shelf and they stole it from a real store. And companies are bending over backwards to appease people that do nothing but steal. What's the logic in that? Well, some random person had an idea that, if I can remember properly, SJWs, they have their echo chambers, their shut-ins, and they're absolutely rabid. Like, they'll dehumanize everybody that's not in their weird cult. They're not really a problem in real life. If you see an SJW in real life, you'll know it when you see them. They don't get out much, and for a very good reason. But it's just so weird that all these companies are bending over backwards to a bunch of thieving shut-ins. But I guess they just, harass people on the internet. I don't even know, but somebody had the theory that the government sees SJWs as useful idiots that is basically free labor, free mass harassment against people that the government doesn't like. And, I can't really remember what this person said, but maybe some other time when my voice is going, and maybe some other time I'll write something down, but I always say that and then I don't do it. Anyway, I will talk at you some other time.